Mriganko Babu was standing all alone in the middle of the road on his way back from Durgapur, while Sudhir, the driver of his car, had gone to fetch petrol from Panagarh. This is what we found in the last part of the last video, and there we also found that Mriganko Babu, when he knew that he had to spend a long time all alone, he made a survey of the eastern and the western side of the road, and he has described this. We found it in the earlier video, and it was a tough time for him. Anyone knows that spending time all alone and in a very difficult situation, it was all because of Sudhir's carelessness. And still we found that Sudhir will come much later, and Mriganko Babu has to spend some more time in this lonely place. Let us see what happens next. This is the second part of the second video, and here we will start from where we stopped in the last video. We stopped in the middle of page 23 of this book, and the paragraph that we ended was, although it was winter, Mriganko Babu began to feel warm in the sun after a while. So he returned to the car, took out a detective novel from his book, took out a detective novel from his bag and began to read it. Now come to the next paragraph. In the last few minutes, 2 ambassadors and a lorry had gone past one of the cars in the direction of Calcutta. None of the drivers stopped to ask if he needed any help. All Bengalis are selfish, Mriganko Babu thought. They would never think of considering the welfare or convenience of others, at least not if it meant causing themselves any inconvenience. Would he have done the same? Perhaps. After all, he was a Bengali too. He might be a well-known writer, but his name could not have removed the faults inherent in him, surely. This paragraph is very interesting, and it shows the mental agony, the unpleasant situation and the irritation that Mriganko Babu was having at that time. In the last 2 minutes, 2 ambassadors and a lorry had gone past one of the cars in the direction of Calcutta. Think about a man who is standing all alone in the middle of the road and his car is standing nearby. Anyone who goes, any vehicle that goes, the driver or people inside the vehicle would surely see that a man is in a lonely place and he is just standing all alone. He must be in some difficulty, he must be in need of some help. But the author said that 2 ambassadors and a lorry had gone past. Ambassador, it was a car brand earlier, it was very popular, and this ambassador and a lorry also, lorry what we call truck. One of the cars in the direction of Calcutta, one car was going to Calcutta also, but none of the drivers stopped to ask if he needed any help. When he found that not a single driver stopped, seeing me standing all alone, they should have, out of humanity, stopped and asked me, "Sir, do you need any help?" No one stopped. This made him really very angry at his own community, and he said, all Bengalis are selfish, Mriganko Babu thought. This is a kind of self-criticism. He is criticizing himself as a Bengali, and using the word Bengali here is because since this is in West Bengal and the area must have been dominated by Bengalis, and he himself was also a Bengali, this means he is criticizing his own community, that this is what we are. What is he saying? They would never think of considering the welfare or convenience of others, at least not if it meant causing themselves any inconvenience. That these people are such that they will never think of doing any help or providing any help or convenience to others, especially not if it means that they will have to suffer some difficulty, they will take some pain, and at the cost of their pain they will have to help others. No, not at all. Even if it is not at the cost of some pain on their part, still they are not the type of people who will help. This is what he is saying. He is making a self-criticism of his own community, and then he is asking himself, he is having a question in his mind, would he have done the same? If I was in their situation, if I had found someone else standing on the middle of the road, would I have stopped, or would I have gone the way they have gone without asking? This is a question in his mind. Then he himself said, perhaps I would also have done the same thing like they did. Why? He said, after all, he was a Bengali too. He might be a well-known writer, but his name could not have removed the faults inherent in him, surely. Yes, the author, through the mind of Mriganka Babu, wants to say that Mriganka Babu's view is that yes, he was a well-known writer, he was a prominent man, of course that is true, but does it mean that the characteristics, the features inherent in someone's mind, in someone's gene, the kind of characteristic that people of a particular community have, he is saying that just because I am a renowned man, I am a writer, does it mean that I am free from all the faults that my community have? No. The faults that Bengali people have, that must have been in me also, because I am also Bengali. This all this means that he is criticizing his own community, he is criticizing his own people, he is criticizing himself, and all this because of utter frustration, because of his loneliness, the difficulty in which his driver Sudhir had led him to. So then what to do? Rather unexpectedly, the clouds from the north spread quickly and covered the sun. We earlier found that there was some cloud seen on the northern part where Mriganka Babu was standing, but above his head there was no cloud. Now the cloud from the north spread quickly and covered the sun. At the same time, a cool breeze started blowing. Cool breeze, B-R-E-E-Z, breeze means it's a kind of very comfortable air, very soothing air. So a cool breeze started blowing. Mriganka Babu took out a pullover from his bag and slipped it on. We earlier found that Mriganka Babu went to take sunlight and then he felt warm and then he went inside his car. He started reading a detective novel. Now we found that he had taken out a pullover from his bag. Pullover is a kind of, it's a cloth item that doesn't usually have a fastening, and it is usually for the winter season. It is more like a shirt, and he took out a pullover from his bag and slipped it on. It means he put it on. The sun would set by 5 o'clock. It would grow cooler then. Oh, what an awful situation Sudhir had landed him into. So he is just thinking that, see how difficult situation it is. It is getting cooler, and after a while at 5 o'clock sun will set. I am still all alone standing here. No one is extending any helping hand to me. And the driver Sudhir, it is because of him that I am suffering. Mriganka Babu discovered that he could not concentrate on his book. Perhaps he should try to think of a new plot for a story. The Bharat magazine had asked for a story, but he had not yet written one for them. A plot had started to form in his head, even during the short journey from Durgapur. Now he took out his notebook and jotted a few points down. Mriganka Babu found that he could not concentrate on his book, the detective novel that he started to read. He could not continue, he could not concentrate. Now he thought that what else to do, since he is a writer. A person who writes stories or poems, wherever they go, they have this thing in mind. Whenever they find a situation which is suitable, which can give birth to a story, they immediately take it. We people, we visit many places, meet many people, find many situations, but we rarely bother about these things. But a creative writer, a story writer, a novelist or a poet, these people, whenever they find any situation from that, they take out some things and they add some other things from their own and they make a plot. A plot means the main events in a story. Mriganka Babu, when he found that he could not concentrate on the novel, he thought of making a new plot for a story. Bharat magazine is the name of a magazine that had asked him to provide them a story. He could not do it yet. So now he thought of doing something else. Since he could not concentrate on reading the book, he thought of creating a plot of a story, to make some mental preparation for writing a story. While coming from Durgapur, at that time also some ideas came to his mind, and now he thought in the same direction and he took out his notebook and jotted down. It means he noted down, put down some points that will later get the form of a story. No, sitting in the car was boring. So when he was doing this, sitting in the car, again he found that activity also boring. He put his notebook away, climbed out means he came out of the car and lit another cigarette. Then he walked a few paces means a few steps, and stood in the middle of the road. It seemed as if he was the only human being in the whole world. He had never felt so completely desolate. Desolate means lonely. Such a lonely situation it is that he could not feel comfortable, he could not feel easy, he could not concentrate on anything, neither on reading the detective novel nor on making the plot of a story. Nothing consoled him, nothing could make him happy, he could not feel easy with anything. Finally he came on the road, on the middle of the road, and he felt so lonely that never in his life he felt so lonely, and it seemed to him as if he is the only human being in the whole world, as if the whole world has become people-less. But no, there was someone else. This is the turning point. Just he said that he felt as if he is the only human being in the world. He had never felt so lonely. Now he said there was someone else. It was that scarecrow. We earlier found the mention of a scarecrow, that the scarecrow was on the western side of the road. He saw a scarecrow. Now he again noticed that scarecrow, and he said, yes, I am not all alone. There is a scarecrow. There was a small patch of land where someone had grown some plants, perhaps more winter crop. The scarecrow was standing right in the middle of it. A bamboo pole had been fixed vertically on the ground. Another was placed horizontally across it. The two ends of the second pole stretched out like two arms. A shaft had been slipped onto this structure. Its sleeves covered the arms. Over the free end of the vertical pole, an earthen pot had been placed upside down. It was not very easy to see from this distance, but Mriganko Babu could guess that the pot had been painted black and huge eyes had been drawn on it with white paint. How strange! It was this weird figure that birds mistook for a real person and were frightened enough not to cause any harm to the crop. Were birds really that foolish? Why? Dogs didn't get taken in. They could of course smell a real person. Didn't crows and sparrows have a similar sense of smell? So when you have nothing else to do, when you find no company, then you start doing things, or you start thinking some things which you usually do not have time or usually do not think. Now you see what happened is that Mriganko Babu again noticed that scarecrow, and he could see that the scarecrow was standing right in the middle of the road. There is a small patch of land. Patch means a plot of land which is demarcated for some special purpose, for example for growing some plants. You must have seen in the fields where farmers demarcate some plot for growing some kind of plant, some other patches. So all these demarcated spot for a particular purpose is called a patch. So there was a small patch of land where someone had grown some winter plants, possibly some more winter crops, because already harvesting is done, already all the crops had been cut down, it is taken home. Now since the land is free, it is barren, and someone has grown some more winter crop. The scarecrow was standing right in the middle of that patch of land, and as you know of scarecrow, there are two bamboo poles, one put vertically and one put horizontally. The one put horizontally, it has a shaft is put into its structure as if two arms are there. At the top he could see from the distance that there was an earthen pot was there which was painted. It was painted black, and huge eyes had been drawn on it with white paint. On the earthen pot that was at the top of the structure, that should look like a head, it was painted black, and within the black paint there were some white eyes. And Mriganko Babu is thinking, how strange, this is the strange thing which birds mistake it. They think it to be a human being, and they are afraid of it, and that's why they just leave the place. And were birds really foolish? This thought, since Mriganko Babu is all alone, this thought came to his mind. Are birds really so foolish that they consider this structure to be a human being? Then again he is asking, but dogs don't do it. Dogs can very easily identify it's not a human being. Then he finds a reason why dogs don't become fool, because dogs have the capacity to smell. They can smell and they can realize it's not a real human being. Then again he is asking, didn't crows and sparrows have a similar sense of smell? Okay, so far as dog is concerned, it can smell, it can make the idea that it's not a real human being. But what about crows and sparrows? Don't they have also a similar sense like dogs. These thoughts, these questions, these queries were coming to his mind because he was standing all alone, and this Scarecrow had created some interest in his mind. Sunlight appeared through a crack in the clouds and fell on the Scarecrow. See, the story of Scarecrow is now getting more prominence, it is getting more priority. Sunlight appeared through a crack. We earlier found that clouds had moved and it has moved, and some sunlight already fell on the Scarecrow. Sunlight appeared through a crack in the cloud. Crack means there is a small portion, there was sunlight, there was a cloud, but between the cloud a small crack is created through which sunlight is falling, and it falls exactly on the Scarecrow. So from the distance Mriganka Babu can very easily see the Scarecrow in a better way. Mriganka Babu saw that the Scarecrow was wearing a printed shirt. This much he could see from this distance, that he noticed that the Scarecrow was wearing a printed shirt. When some rays of light, rays of sunlight fell on the Scarecrow, Mriganka Babu from this distance also could very easily see that the Scarecrow was wearing a printed shirt. He had seen that torn red black printed shirt before. This may be a question, what kind of shirt was the Scarecrow wearing? And see how Mriganka Babu is getting closer to it. He is getting drawn to the Scarecrow. He had seen that the Scarecrow, the shirt, the printed shirt that the Scarecrow was wearing. Mriganka Babu felt that he had seen that torn red shirt having been worn by someone, or at least it reminded him of someone. If not that, if he had not actually seen someone wearing such a shirt, but at least this shirt that is being worn by the Scarecrow, it reminds him of someone. Who could it be? Mriganka Babu tried very hard but failed to remember. Yet he felt sure that he had seen someone wear such a shirt a long time ago. He could not exactly remember, exactly say what or who is the person which he is reminded of because of this red printed shirt that the Scarecrow is wearing, but he has got some interest in it. He is trying hard to remember where he saw such a shirt, or who is the person whose memory is disturbing him after seeing this shirt being worn by the Scarecrow. Mriganka Babu looked at his watch. It was 20 minutes past 4. There was tea in a flask in the car. He could help himself to some of it now. This sentence is very interesting. Let us see. He could help himself. He could help himself. He could help himself. Help himself to some of it now. See this sentence. The author means to say that since there was some tea in the flask, Mriganka Babu could take some tea and get fresh. But the thing is that the way the author has written it, he could help himself to some of it now. It means, this is a very nice expression, you can use it, that he could help himself to some of it now. It means he could help himself by offering some tea to himself, or he could take some tea from the flask, and in this way he could serve himself. He returned to the car, poured tea into the cup, in the cap of the flask. There is no cup with him. He poured tea into the cap of the flask and drank it. Now he felt a little warmer. The sun peered again through the dark clouds. Peer means when you look at something, you do not have enough space, enough arrangement for seeing, but you, through a hole or through something, you see, you peer. So the sun peered again through the dark clouds. The cloud has already covered the sun, but sun is also trying to come and throw light on the earth. So the sun peered again through the dark clouds. It was just over the trees on the western side. In about 5 minutes it would set. The sun was about to set. After about 5 minutes it will set. It is evening, or almost evening now. A reddish light fell on the Scarecrow. Again the Scarecrow is attracting Mriganka Babu all the while. A reddish light fell on the Scarecrow. Since the sun was about to set, its color changed and a reddish light fell on the Scarecrow. Another ambassador passed Mriganka Babu's car. He drank some more tea, then got out again, Sudhir was not going to be back for another hour. How could he spend that time? The western sky had turned crimson. The clouds had moved away. The red disk soon sank into the horizon. It would not be long before dusk fell. Sudhir has not yet come. He is all alone. The sun is almost setting. The western sky had turned crimson. That is a color. Crimson is a color that the sun takes, the sunlight gets just before setting. The clouds had moved away. The red disk soon sink into the horizon. The red disk that is created just before sunlight will soon disappear. There will be complete darkness. It would not be long before dusk fell. Dusk is the time just after sunset. So soon it is going to be evening. Soon the sun is going to set. That scarecrow, for some unknown reason, Mriganka Babu continued to feel strangely drawn towards that figure. The scarecrow, Mriganka Babu could not forget the scarecrow. Time and again the scarecrow is attracting him. Time and again he gets some interest in it. He gets drawn towards it, especially ever since he had seen it wearing a red and black printed shirt, and he had started thinking that he had seen someone wearing this shirt, or this shirt reminds him of someone, but who is that someone he cannot remember exactly. But this thought has created working in his mind. It has started making him think. He cannot forget it. So that scarecrow, for some unknown reason, Mriganka Babu continued to feel strangely drawn towards that figure. There is a strange connection. The scarecrow, as if it is making some kind of intimacy with him. He cannot forget it. Time and again he remembers it. He looked steadily at it. He gazed at the scarecrow for a while without making any eye blink. He just looked at the scarecrow for a while. In a few minutes, he noticed a few things that made his heart beat faster. When he looked at the scarecrow for a while, in a few minutes, he saw something which made his heart beat faster, which made him frightened. He really got terrified because something he saw in the scarecrow. Yes, ever since he saw it, especially after seeing the scarecrow having on this red and black printed shirt, which again reminded him of someone, but he could not remember exactly who that person was. And now, since he looked at the scarecrow for a while, he saw some changes, some things in the scarecrow, some changes taking place. That made his heart beat faster, that made him really frightened. And think about the man, it's going to be night very soon, and he is all alone. Sudhir has not yet returned. So that is really a very, very sensitive time. It is a situation where he is really afraid, and this may be a turning point in the story. And what happens next, this we will find in the third video, the next video. We are ending this video here. Thank you very much for being with me.